I can still remember the very first D&D campaign I played back in the days of yore. I played a half-orc fighter, and I had the amazing fortune of having rolled a 19 strength. Now you have to realize that in the context of 2nd edition D&D, a 19 strength was absolutely astounding, giving you a whopping +3 to hit and +7 to damage. Unfortunately, I died at level 7, charging a much higher level mage, and no one in my party could afford to pitch in for my resurrection, so that was that. I learned 3 lessons from that time. 1. Playing a chaotic neutral madman generally doesn't lead to good things. 2. Just because you have a big 2-handed sword and a 19 strength does not mean a powerful mage cannot disintegrate you on the spot. And 3. Magic is pretty damn powerful. So, lesson learned. But that first-time experience instilled a lasting appreciation of the half-orc experience. And lo and behold, we know that at the latest, come full release, we'll be able to play a half-orc. Now you might think that a half-orc is simple, the result of the joining of a human and orc, and usually that's true, but half-orcs play an interesting role as a playable race in D&D. They lack the mystique and glamour of elves, the tradition and doggedness of dwarves, the humor and mischief of gnomes, and the general adventuresomeness of halflings. Indeed, half-orcs are often defined by the fact that there are very few easy generalizations one can make about them, as they don't always fit into a broad category, as do many other fantasy races. In this sense, half-orcs have this in common with humans, although there are some general trends that can be observed. Virtually all half-breeds are known to have somewhat of an identity crisis. For example, half-elves commonly do, but half-orcs unfortunately suffer even more in this regard, because of both the expectations put upon them concerning their non-human half, as well as their natural inclinations, which reflect that same half, and thus, most half-orcs are expected to be brutish, bestial, and uncouth, which in many cases can be true, and their appearance often reflects that. But obviously, exceptions to this rule abound, and maybe the half-orc you play would be such an exception. As long as there has been human-orc contact, there have been half-orcs. But as with all half-breeds, half-orcs do not as such have their own culture or historical legacy. Rather, half-orcs are primarily influenced by the culture they have grown up in, typically human or orcish. Half-orcs that have spent most of their time in human society are calmer, better-mannered, and more adaptive, even if they are regarded with suspicion, and such half-orcs are more likely to pursue trades and roles that are more flexible than those who have grown up in orcish society. Half-orcs that have been raised in orcish societies, by way of contrast, tend to be far more brutal and ruthless than their human race cousins. In such situations, half-orcs attempt to use their greater intelligence and human gifts to outwit and outmaneuver their pure-blood brethren, often rising to great heights within orc society, even surpassing many purebloods. But such half-orcs are rarely the sort to take up the adventuring path. Typically, these are the ones raised among humans, though not exclusively, as adventuring requires a kind of etiquette that British orc society rarely teaches its members. But even so, most half-orcs, whether they were raised amongst humans or orcs, feel certain emotions that stem from their orcish background. All half-orcs have inherited the strength and fury of their orcish parent, what some refer to as a blessing of the orcish war god Grumpsh, One-Eyed. This pushes half-orcs to feel rage and anger, which, on the one hand, makes them formidable foes in combat, unyielding and unrelenting, but can make life more difficult for them outside of combat situations. And this is an area where human-raised half-orcs have a distinct advantage over their orc-raised brethren, as orcish society encourages this sort of behavior, and human society is more likely to teach temperance. Orcish society encourages the cultivation of such feelings, but half-orcs in general are given to strong emotions, whether love, hate, sadness, or joy. Going hand in hand with this are the activities that half-orcs enjoy: feasting, drinking, wrestling, and dancing. In short, half-orcs feel the need to live out their emotions to the fullest in all situations. Half-orcs that are raised among orcs will try to climb their way up the brutal hierarchy, taking advantage of their gifts to best full-blooded orcs, but half-orcs raised in human society face more difficult choices, often feeling tugged on by deep-seated instincts and feelings, but also wishing to prove themselves in their merit, often to the point of extreme recklessness and foolishness. But this is also the reason why the adventurer's path is so common among them, and why some half-orcs are the bravest adventurers out there. Half-orcs physically mature more quickly than humans, and rarely live past 75. They are larger and more strongly built, usually ranging from 5 feet 9 inches to 6 feet and 4 inches in height, and usually weighing around 155 to 225 pounds. They have grayish, yellowish, or greenish skin, sometimes with prominent teeth or even tusks, and therefore can never truly pass as fully human, which typically adds to the identity crisis they face. Now, when most people think of Half-Orcs, the most logical class or set of classes for them is probably some warrior class. Or, to be more specific, of the warrior classes, the class best suited to them is almost certainly the barbarian, which fully capitalizes on their innate abilities. Half-Orcs in 5th edition gain a natural +2 to their strength and a +1 to constitution, and have dark vision up to 60 feet. They automatically gain intimidation as a skill, and have 2 unique abilities: relentless endurance, which occurs when you are reduced to 0 hit points but not killed outright, in which situation you can drop to 1 hit point instead, and this can be used once per long rest; and savage attack, which allows you to roll one of the weapon's damage dice 1 additional time, and add its extra damage on a critical hit. Such abilities really do scream barbarian, but could also be well implemented for any martial class: ranger, fighter, perhaps even paladin. Or if you're feeling really quirky, as 5th edition allows you to do it, you might want to romp around as a half-orc bard or wizard, just for the lulz. Now personally, I feel a little torn because of my nostalgia for my first character I ever played. So maybe I'll end up playing a half-orc fighter or barbarian on my first playthrough. Or maybe I will succumb to the more likely temptation of bardic music and magic. What about you? Do you have any interest in half-orcs, or are you planning on playing one? Do let me know in the comment section. And as always, thank you for tuning in. Please leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe, as it really helps out the channel. And I'll check you out next time. Take care.